And welcome to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Louis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Louis Bright Raven, 27-year veteran of comics, role-playing games, science fiction, fantasy, and horror as a writer and illustrator and editor, and comics journalist. This week, we had a little bit of a kerfluffle with my printer and my computer unexpectedly today, and it kind of screwed up my scheduling on how to get this show set up, but we managed at the very last moment, so we have a show. So good. So let's go ahead and get to the question there, but before we do that, we have to do our usual COPPA notice, and that is in accordance with the new COPPA regulations. This episode of Quoth the Raven is intended for ages 16 and up. While some of the content we will feature is kid-friendly, the context of the episode is to address and educate older teens and adults to inform them of said content for them to research as consumers in service of their youth. In other words, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, librarians, etc. There is always the possibility of adult language present on the episode as well. Rated TV 16 and up. So that being said, let's go ahead and get to our questions this week. Our first question is from Debbie in Michigan. And she asks, have you seen the news about Netflix making a Usagi Yojimbo CGI cartoon series? What are your thoughts about CGI-only shows? Yes, I did see the article. I shared it on Facebook. Happy for Stan Sakai. Couldn't happen to a nicer chap. Hope it does really well for him. Unfortunately, I don't get Netflix, so I won't see it until it comes out on DVD, most likely. As far as CGI only, there's nothing wrong with that. It just depends on the computer people, making the designs and doing the graphics should be okay. I look forward to seeing and hearing about it some more down the road. Next question. From Angela. And she says, I think you can get the CW network locally on your dish satellite TV now. If you can, have you seen the Stargirl show? Yes, actually, I have. The CW did, in fact, come on to Dish Network last week. So on Sunday, I got to watch last week's episode of Stargirl, and then on Tuesday, I watched this week's episode. So I'm about 2/3 of the season through. I'm coming into it cold. Because I'm familiar with the character and I read the Stars and Stripes miniseries, I'm familiar with all the characters that are being shown, and I'm a little bit familiar with the JSA as well. So I'm not completely lost, but truth be told, I'd rather not give an opinion on it until I've seen the whole season, and I don't know when I'll have time to do that yet. So, but yes, I have seen it, and so far what I've seen is, it's okay. Nothing wrong with it. Next question. Is from James H. And he asks, why is there such vitriol and or anti-Comicsgate sentiment? Well, James, I think the real issue is that some of the higher profile members of the Comicsgate community, the formerly popular creators that were at DC and Marvel in the 90s and early 2000s that aren't in favor with current management, that are basically putting down everybody else, saying, hey, look at all this stuff that stinks, SJW this, SJW that. Look at my stuff. My stuff's so great. I think that their attitude about their superiority, their way of tearing other people down to build themselves up is what people are more against. I think if people would just shut up and let their work speak for themselves in the Comicsgate group and not make it, start tearing up everything else and just let the work speak for itself, I think they'd be a lot better off in that regard. And I don't think, but, there's that, and then there's other issues. But if you're just going to sit there and tear down your peers and your competitors to try and make yourself look better, you're always going to have a negative um, connotation applied to you, I think. So I think that's the key there. Next question from Mark. Have you read about the NBC Universal Comics deal with Grant Morrison? What little there was to be read about it, yeah, I have seen it. Not much really to report on it. Not really caring. Not that Grant's one of these people who have a skeleton in the closet that needs to be pulled out and exposed and everything like some of the other people have had recently. But, to me, Grant is just another overrated, overused guy that, he's don't get me wrong, he's very talented and he's done some excellent work over the years. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying I'm indifferent to it. In that respect of whatever we're going to do with him making TV shows or stuff like that. It's just there. We'll see what happens when it comes out. Next question. It's from Mike T in South Carolina. Image Comics recently removed an article they did about Warren Ellis and his Warren Ellis forums, or WF forums, in light of a recent event where Ellis has been accused of grooming aspiring female talents. Do you think that this was the right thing to do, or do you think that there were other options that could have been explored? Well, there certainly were other options to explore in terms of having written an update and editing that in there, or interviewing Warren and getting some real straight answers from him if one would even do that. But what they did wasn't wrong. It was a form of social distancing and trying to get things straight, because you can't have an individual, whether you're working with them or not, you can't have the individual or their actions be representational of the overall whole. And so by removing it from their site and explaining that's why they removed it from their site, what they were saying is we don't condone what we've been told has happened more than anything else. They're not trying to whitewash it or pretend that it didn't happen. They're just trying to say, hey, we don't approve of this, and because of that, we're not going to promote what Ellis did or didn't do, with the positive or negative with the forums. And I think, maybe in the future there'll be a revisitation, maybe not from Image, but in general, I think there will be a revisitation to that, to the history of that forum and what that did or didn't do, beneficial and negative, both sides. When we'll see that, I don't know, but it should be happening at some point. Next question, if we have any this week. Let's see. Anonymous asks, in the wake of exposure of various parties of improper behaviors, what do you think would be the best course of action towards the parties in question? Well, that depends on an individual case basis. It's difficult to say. I mean, there's always going to be people who are doing things that are questionable or inappropriate. And when exactly do what do we tolerate, and when do we forgive them, and do we let them have their careers and stuff? And the reason I say that is, like, okay, let's say a creator grooms a female and they had a one-night stand or whatever, and she never got a job or whatever. Okay, that's wrong. Does that person now get banned for life from comics? Well, is that worse than Michael Vick killing dogs and going to prison and then being allowed to go back and play in the NFL. He was forgiven. Well, he paid his due. Okay, fine. What do you want the guys to do? You want everybody who ever groomed a female to go to jail for it for a period of time? Then we got to prove that in the court of law. And a lot of women don't want to go through that circumstance anyway. That's kind of why we're in the social media, Me Too, this is what happened type of thing, instead of doing what's, I won't say what's right or wrong, but, we need to get, if this was a real problem, and it is, we need to get it addressed in the court, not just the court of public opinion, but real court. So, and then we can make decisions on what we can do on an individual case-by-case basis. John Norris says, good evening. And he says, we can watch Usagi at my house. Well, we'll see when it comes on and if what's going on. Hopefully the COVID-19 situation will be resolved by then. Let's see if we got any more questions. Nope, we don't. So if you have questions, you can email them to quotheravenlbr72@gmail.com. Subject QTR questions. Please indicate whether or not you want your name and locale read on air. Okay. Well, we got a really busy review set up this week. But before we get to that, I think we're going to try and get some crowdfunding reviews in. Let me see if I can find them real quick. Okay. Have to share a different screen here real quick. There we go. And this is a group that's already been funded. This is the Baboon and Pink Lemonade Jamboree. There's 19 days left to go. As you can see, they have already surpassed and have been funded beyond their $500 goal. They're at $2,743. For those of you who don't know, Pink Lemonade is created by Nick Cagnetti, who's one of our former guests on the show. And people seem to like the Pink Lemonade character from what I've read from emails and stuff. So I thought I'd let you guys know that there is another one shot here for this event crossover. Let's go ahead and look at the video.
Hi, my name is Jamie Jones. I am a cartoonist, an illustrator, and the creator of the action-adventure comic The Baboon, and I have teamed up with Phoenix, Arizona's best comic book artist of 2019, and the creator of Pink Lemonade, Nick Cagnetti. Together, we have joined forces to bring you The Baboon and Pink Lemonade Jamboree! So I was reading a ton of 90s Image comics late last year, and what really caught my imagination was characters jumping into other characters' books for a cup of coffee and then bouncing back into their own stories for their own plot lines. And it got me thinking, I want to do that. So I called up Nick. It turns out he wanted to do something like that too. So we did. So here's the thing. The book is done. The book is done. So here's the thing. The book is done. Originally, Nick and I were just going to print it ourselves and then bring it to conventions for us to sell. But we've had to pivot. And wanting to keep with that direct-to-consumer mentality, we have come to Kickstarter.
Plus, what's better than comic books being sent to your front door?
So the goal is low and the rewards are few. Just books and sketches. We've got a few ideas of what we want to do for stretch goals, but it's pretty much just a comic. We want to get it to you because it's a lot of fun. And I think you'll really dig it.
Okay. That was a cute little video from Jamie. Take a quick glance here at the product. Pledge without a reward is $10. Whoops, pardon me. You can pledge $1 or more if you just want to help. You get a digital version for $3. $5 gets you the print edition and the digital PDF. And this is going to ship next month in August. So if you pledge 30 or more, you can get the Baboon Mustaloid Menace hardcover graphic novel that that Jamie flashed before you there during the video, a Jamboree print edition and the PDF. For $50, you can get an original sketch from either Jamie or Nick, depending on which character you want or which artist you want. And there's a few other things up there as well. Let's see. They go to a convention here and they meet each other and to stop the enemy, Dr. Deluminex, or their Comic-Con will be ruined. So sounds like fun. Little book. Jamie did the pencils and inks, and colored were by Nick. So that'll be an interesting little product there. And, I'll go ahead and put a little notice of the link to that in our description on our YouTube page. Also, I can hopefully get a link here on the video. I will try to add one here. It's not that easy to do. But we will try. There's your link to it. And I'll leave that up for a few moments. And again, I will post that in the comments on the YouTube page as well. I think that'll be long enough. See what other fun stuff we might have out there. We got all kinds of crazy things to look up. Okay. And this is an Indiegogo one. It's Ava, comic issue #1, Mainframe is watching. The writer is Anna Eskinder from Manchester, United Kingdom, and the artist, oh shoot, why can't I remember his name? Anyway, it's more of an adult-oriented stuff. There's probably some more of a older teen thing, but let's see. Tim, that's what I was trying to think of. Tim. Shoot. Anyway, let's go ahead and run the video.
Eva is a cyberpunk comic book series based on a love of 80s sci-fi and fantasy fiction. The story is set in the Ardent Nation, an upbeat, stylized technological utopia set in the 23rd century. However, all is not what it seems. Individuality and privacy are rare commodities that only the governing elite are privileged to. So imagine, if you will, social media becoming the governing body of a surviving nation. Everything about you and what you do since the day you were born is automatically streamed onto your timeline. This is then monitored by a totalitarian regime known as Mainframe. Mainframe's prime directive is to compete for technological advancement and for survival in a post-apocalyptic world. In the spirit of fighting cyber terrorism, people of the Ardent Nation are kept on a short leash through the use of surveillance implants. The message is simple: comply with Mainframe's standard behavior protocol or be rehabilitated. It's all about working as a collective for a common cause while suppressing any scope for individual thought and self-expression. Ivor is now complete and ready for publication. It's a labour of love that's been brought to life by the epic illustrative skills of Timothy Green II. It's an extraordinary journey, one of which we hope our readers will join us on.
Sorry about that. Here we go. Yeah, I knew his name was Tim. I just couldn't remember the full name. Timothy Green II. Timothy's worked on DC Comics, on Animal Man and Swamp Thing and other books, if I remember correctly. Well experienced. They're, as you can see, they've got a little over $3,200, and they got to get to 5,022. I don't know why they have an odd 5,022 fixed goal, but okay. And they have 12 days left to reach that funding at Indiegogo, or I guess the I don't know how the money gets returned. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at what you can get. You can get a digital comic download for $3, print a copy for $5, a variant for $5 for existing backers. Comic and digital bundle is $6. Postcards, a few other things. Take a quick look at Tim's art. Again, you know, you see that the character is sort of naked in different areas, so it's definitely more of a mature reader's type book. There'll be 28 pages, a story with 32 pages of cover. Traditional size, standard comic format. As you can see, he worked on Star-Lord, Aeon Flux, Red Hood, Rocket, Raccoon, and Groot as well. They mentioned them. So there's quite a bit there. You can get original artwork from Tim as well. So those are our two immediate crowdfunding reviews this week. And I'll go ahead and put a link to that on here as well. And that is the link to the Ava Indiegogo. And with that, we'll go ahead and get back to our regular reviews for the week. Got quite a bit to do. And we start with Batman and Harley Quinn trade paperback, $14.99. Publisher is DC Comics. The writers are Ty Templeton, Jeff Parker, Amanda DeBear, and Matt Dow Smith. The artists are Rick Burkett, Luciano Vecchio, Craig Rousseau, Sandy Jarrell, David Hahn, and Dario Rezuello. Hope I didn't slaughter that name. Colors are by Karen Smith, Tony Avina, Franco Risco, and Luciano Vecchio. Genre is superhero comedy. The ISBN number is 978-1-4012-8899-0. And what it's about is it's a collection of Harley Quinn stories in the DC animated universe style where she betrays the Joker and goes straight. It's a good examination of the character and of various relationships between her and Batman, Poison Ivy, and Nightwing. There are some slightly more mature elements in the story, nothing too adult, but it's not a kid's comic. And the only thing that kind of threw me off was the Nightwing Harley sort of having a flirty sexual banter between the two at different times. The rating is actually a 4-star. I messed up on the graphic there. It's a 4 out of 5, and it's recommended for ages 13 and up. Let's take a quick look at the artwork. And this is part of why I said it's not really a kid's comic. As you can see, Harley is walking around in her, panties and changing, and you can, even though the boob is covered with the arm and everything, it's definitely not something little kids should be necessarily reading. And some of the content, in terms of the storyline, is a little more adult-oriented or older teen-oriented, because the relationships between Harley and Ivy are a little more, I won't say explicit, but it's definitely leading towards letting people realize that they have the attraction that they do with each other and not just friends. This book I had for a long time, actually. I don't know exactly when I bought it even. It was just sitting around. I didn't even realize I hadn't read or reviewed it, so I did it this week. Our next book is Comic Book Creator 22. Publisher, it's $9.95. The publisher is Tomorrow's. Writers and artists are various. The genres, it's a news, comic reviews, and historical perspective type book. In this issue, there's a talk with the late Joe Sinnott, who's legendary inker and penciler, with his and his son Mark, mostly covering Joe's pre-1960s non-Marvel work. This is possibly the last interview Joe gave before his passing. I'm not sure. Very well done discussion. There was a quick remembrance of comics journalist, historian, and creator Bill Shelley, who recently had passed away. A discussion with Durf about his Kent State documentary graphic novel about the students who were shot and killed at Kent State University in 1970 by the State National Guard over Vietnam conflict. And then there's an interview with artist P. Craig Russell, who is the artist who did the cover. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I wish that there were more podcasts and more news sites that did their operations like Tomorrow's does this type of magazine. There's really nothing but positivity in the book, and it's just really well done. The next book is Michael T. Gilbert's The Complete Wraith trade paperback for $14.99. I think there was also a hardcover edition for a little bit more. The publisher is not Cover Press, it's Clover with an L, Clover Press. Again, I had some graphics issues this week. So it's Clover Press. The writer and artist is Michael T. Gilbert. The genre is crime noir humor, and anthropomorphic humor. It came out on July 1st, 2020. And the ISBN number is 978-1-951-038-113-7. What it's about, this is Michael Gilbert's seminal 1970s independent comic about a dog detective known as the Wraith. It's part homage to Will Eisner's The Spirit, in part humorous mystery series, and The Wraith is a classic of the early independent comic scene, even as it only appeared in a handful of times as part of the anthologies Quack and Strange Brew. The collection presents multiple stories in a historical retrospective, not only of the character, but of the creator's life at the time he was creating the book and how his life at the time affected how and what he created for the series. Each story is well crafted. It's not a 3-story, it's a 4.5 star rating, not 3. And it's ages 15 and up. And since I didn't have a chance to get the graphics, I got the book here. This is a thick little book here. The back cover has a cover of one of the issues of the Quack that he appeared in. Some of the other Quacks, all 5, I think, 5 or 6 of them that he appeared in, the Quack and the Strange Brew that he appeared in, the covers, so you could see what the original materials were that this stuff came from. It's all black and white interiors with a lot of gray tone, or not gray tone, but zipatone, which back in the 70s was very popular. As you can see, he does uses the Wraith thing with the clothesline there, very similar to how Eisner would make the name The Spirit into some of the background art in some of his strips. This is originated in 1976, as you can see. Some more of the original art. Now I'll go ahead and move it a little bit further forward, so that you can see how his work has evolved from story to story. This is where this is based on his own experience with dating an older woman that basically just wanted to date. And he ended up breaking up with her and everything because she couldn't grow up and figure out what she really wanted in a relationship. But it's all very based that the Wraith fell in love with this woman stuck on an island, and the whole book is done sideways comparatively to the rest of the book on this particular chapter. It was very interesting. And then you can see that he does notes and commentary for each chapter and explaining what his thoughts were at the time and everything in between each one of the stories. This is from Reality Wraith, 1977. That's his sidekick female. So, it's a very enjoyable book. If you like The Spirit, if you like Michael T. Gilbert's Mr. Monster, you should look for this book. Again, it's Clover Press, $14.99. Let's see what our next book is. Okay, that is The Dark Matter of Mona Starr. Publisher Amulet Books, $14.99. The writer-artist is Laura Lee Gullidge. The genre is young adult, slice of life, and fantasy. It's 188 pages. Released July 1st, 2020. The ISBN number is 978-1-4197-4200-2. What it's about. Mona Starr is a typically geeky teenage girl who bottles up all of her anxieties, causing her to have clinical depression, which magically manifests itself as her dark matter. Her exploration of self and the understanding of her journey of self to self-realization champions the arts and creativity as Mona's imagination and exploration into art and writing become her weapons against the darkness. It's sort of a fictional biography of the author. Very solid, very truthful about the realities of dealing with depression. Artwork is very well done. I recommend it for ages 13 and up because it's done well enough that a younger person can understand what the character is going through, and yet it handles it in a very mature, adult manner that's empowering a person to say you can get help. It's okay to say you need help and stuff like that. I gave it 5 stars out of 5. This is her talking to her counselor and talking about how the darkness is like a hole inside of her and what it does to her. And this is the actual book. Nice little book there. I'll show you a little bit more artwork in here. And you can see the darkness is pulling her back and forth. Again, this is her having a conversation with her counselor. And how she pictures the world and not pictures the world. A little bit closer if I can here. And the counselor is telling her that take some of the things that are bothering her and let it. It's kind of like a meditative yoga type thing, and kind of exhale all the stuff that's stressing out and understand that you're grounded like a tree to the earth, and it branches out. Things branch out, both light and darkness. And you see that little thing where she says that little twing there, and she doesn't know. Well, what happens is she has a health problem, and part of her intestines are actually twisting inside, which is an actual thing that does happen. It happened to my grandfather. He died from it. So she ends up having to have surgery to repair it because she knew something was wrong with her. And so definitely worth reading. Let's see what else we got this week. We have dose number 1 from publisher It's Alive for $4.99. The writer is Sean Ellis. The artist is John Gebbia. The genre is science fiction. It was released this week, July 15th, 2020. It was supposed to come out in May, but due to the pandemic, it got delayed. What it's about is a loser ex-teen superhero sidekick with a serious drug addiction problem in a future world that's one part Blade Runner and one part Astro City. That's basically what it is about. Our protagonist, the Screwworm, which is the guy that's on the cover, is dealing with the burnout of having been kicked out of the superhero club whilst trying to overcome his addiction, or maybe not trying to recover from his addiction. When he visits a club, he learns that a metahuman who can apparently make everyone else hide through her powers. This is not explained in the story yet. It could be psychic, could be pheromonic, or something else. But whatever, somehow he gets a dose of whatever drug she's using, and that's where the episode ends. It really needs to go somewhere in the first issue. There's a lot of setup and not a lot of motion yet. That's why it's kind of an average comic. That's why I gave it 3 stars. I say it's an average comic because a lot of number 1 issues these days, you don't get a story and just set up to introduce everybody and what's going on. You don't know until the 2nd or 3rd issue, and unfortunately, that's what this seems to be. That being said, though, the graphics are very, the artwork for it is very nice. Black and white book. It's definitely a mature reader's comic rather. There's a lot of cuss words in it and stuff like that. And again, he's got a major drug problem. They do show scenes of him snorting the drugs and doing other things in the comic. So, in fact, in the top right corner, the little robot droid is actually preparing him lines on a plate, so that it's definitely an adult comic for mature readers only. But I was interested in it visually myself because of the whole Blade Runner, Judge Dredd type vibe that it was showing. I like that kind of post-apocalyptic stuff, so I wanted to see where it was going. And the publisher, Drew Ford from It's Alive, seems to select pretty good product. He's been producing books from other people that I've seen him produce, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Next book is Dryad, $3.99. It's number 3. The publisher is Oni Press, or Oni Press Lion Forge, since the two have merged. The writer is Kurt Wiebe. The artist is Justin Osterling. Fantasy breaking into science fiction. It was released last week, July 8th. What it's about is Gale, that's the gentleman with the glasses on, attempts to fight off the techno-demons, also known as Morgan, which is the female adult elf, which is his wife, and his old compatriots from the city, who are the warrior guard, revealing that he is a conductor or a wizard. And so what I mean by that, because that's not written very well, basically Morgan's already been captured in the previous issue, and the techno-demons are now trying to find him, or who else they thought was there. They weren't even looking for them, looking for someone else. But he tries to fight them off, and he fails. And now both he and Morgan are plugged into a Matrix-like world to meet with their former boss. Ultimately, they're forced back into service and must return to the city. The revealment of their parents' abilities changes the dynamic of their family, also as the kids, which are not those two little toddlers that are infants that you see in the photo, but they're actually teenagers now. For those of you who don't remember previous issues reviews, they're now just finding out that their parents are who they are, and so they feel like they've been lied to all their entire lives about their history. So now the family trust is broken as they're returning to the city. What will the new reality bring to the family's lives? Recommended for ages 13 and up, 3.5 stars. Unfortunately, didn't get any graphics for it, but I do have the book here, so we'll go ahead and open it. Show a little bit of the art. This is him learning to use different tools and deflecting the techno demons or the other people's attacks with wizardry. And at this point, his son is hiding. And he's defeating most of them, but one person comes out of nowhere and kind of gets him in the last clothesline there. He's going to do one final spell, but the leader, female of the group, catches him off guard and knocks him out. And this is where they are in the Matrix. And they're in tanks in the Matrix, but they're not in tanks in reality. In reality, their bodies are laying on the ground with a cyber helmet on their heads, but this is what they think they're in, talking to their boss. Okay. Pretty decent artwork. It's been a pretty decent series so far. Let's see what our next book is. Our next book is Engine Ward, number 1. Vault Comics is publisher, $3.99. The writer is George Mann. The artist is Joe Eisma, probably better known for his work on Morning Glories from Image. The colors by Michael Garland. The genre is science fiction, released this week, July 15th, 2020. And what it's about, in a post-apocalyptic future, a young engineer, or also known as an engine ward, is given a recently unearthed cyborg head just as her town supplies are dwindling, and the celestial, and I use that term loosely, they call them celestials, beings who rule over them are about to decide the population's fate. What truths will the cyborg head reveal, and what will she do with the information once she learns it? Recommended for ages 15 and up, rated 3.5 stars. It's a little bit above average, just slightly. Main reason, again, it's just set up. We really don't know what's going on yet. We're just getting introduced to some of the characters, and we know something's going to happen, and we know that the Celestials don't have the population's best interests in mind. They're self-serving, but then who isn't in these elitist groups? So, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the next installment, but the artwork's pretty nice. This is the character. The lead engineer is a female, and she's working on a robot droid, and she's trying to figure out the robot's complaining of having feelings, basically. And she's like, no, I can't find anything wrong with your computer programming. And the head of the town is there to meet her in this particular scene. And there's a group that had gone out hunting, and they found that cyborg head that is mentioned in the plot, and they bring it to her just as those two are walking out of the hut, trying to figure out what's going to happen with the Celestials and whether or not the Celestials are going to give them the water supplies that they need, because their town's running out of water. And when she finds out the cyborg head starts showing a little bit of the history of what's really happened, and whether or not that'll reveal what the Celestials are or aren't, or not yet, we don't know yet. But let's see, is there any more? No, there isn't. Okay. Our next book is Join the Future number 3 from Aftershock Comics, $3.99. The writer is Zach Kaplan. The artist is Peter Kowalski. The colorist is Brad Simpson. Genre is science fiction. Released July 8th. What it's about, Clementine, which is the one shooting on the cover. It's a trade with the traitor, who's the guy standing behind her, who basically keeps telling her to let go of everything that's happened, which includes the deaths of her brother and father, and just join the city or flee the area entirely. But she won't listen, so he teaches her how to shoot better, barely. And then she goes off to tackle the first people she thinks betrayed her family, which are the local law enforcement. Only, of course, the traitor has betrayed her, and now she will be forced to go live in the city. It's a 3.5 star book, ages 16 and up. Not going to show any graphics for it. Couldn't really find any, and I don't know where the book is right now. It's not where I thought I had it. So for those who have followed the show, it's, you've seen the graphics for it before in past episodes. Peter does a good job. He's still consistent. The story, I think all these 3 issues could have been done in like an issue and a half and just move the story along that much faster. But okay, whatever. Maybe the story will actually start really moving when she gets into the city next issue. We'll wait and see. Next issue, or next book, is Jack Kirby's The Demon, $29.99. This is the complete edition from DC Comics. Writer-artist is Jack Kirby with Mike Royer on the inks. Genre is fantasy superhero. ISBN number is 978-1-4012-7718-5. And this is the complete run of Kirby's Etrigan Demon series from 1972 to 73. I was first exposed to this series when Mile High Comics sent me a copy of number 12 as a substitute issue for what I'd ordered back around, I want to say 85 or 86. And I wasn't that keen on it because I'm smack in the middle of a story. I don't know what's really going on with it. And it wasn't what I asked for. It was a substitute book, so I wasn't really that thrilled with it. But recent use of the character in a lot of the DC TV shows, the animated series, some of the most recent stuff with the animated movies, made me reconsider the character. And so I went and tracked this collection down. In this story, Morgana Le Fay has defeated Arthur and Merlin, and thus Merlin casts a spell on a knight named Jason Blood and makes him bound to the demon Etrigan and thus immortal. Now, in the modern day, Morgana seeks to gain the secret of immortality, and she will stop at nothing to claim it. Can Jason and Etrigan, or one is the same, stop her? And it's a 5-star book. Let's take a quick look at the artwork. This is actually pages 1 and 4. And then this is the 2-page spread between those 2 pages. It's Jack Kirby, folks. I mean, either you like Jack or you don't. He is obviously one of the legends of all time. I think also back in 85, 86, even though I read a lot of Thor and some other stuff from Jack, when I was a teenager, I wasn't really that enamored with his art style. I just wasn't a fan of his at the time. Hadn't learned to appreciate what he does, I guess you could say, when I was younger. I certainly do now. I'll go on ahead and go to our next book. That's No One's Rose. Number 3, $3.99. Publisher is Vault Comics again, like the Engine Ward book was. Writers are Zach Thompson, and Emily Horn. Artist is Alberto Albuquerque. Colorist is Raul Angulo. Genre is science fiction, released July 8th of this year. And what it's about in this issue is siblings Ten and Saren are both confronted with monumental decisions to make concerning their father's legacy and what to do with it. They each take separate paths in direct conflict with each other, and neither of their choices may be the correct one once the consequences of those choices become clear. As a result, will humanity even survive? Recommended for ages 16 and up, and it is a 3-star book. Don't know for sure if I have artwork or not for this one. No, I do not. So we'll just go ahead and move forward with that one to Stealth number 3 from Image Comics Skybound for $3.99. Writer is Mike Costa. Artist is Nate Bellegarde. The colorist is Tamara Bonvillain. The cover is Jason Howard, by Jason Howard, and the genre is superhero. It was released July 8th of 2020, and what it's about. Tony's father, who is Stealth, breaks into the bank where Tony stashed the Stealth armor and escapes with it, and then goes to what he believes to be an old safe house to try to recover. Meanwhile, the crime lord, the Dead Hand, which is the guy holding the old man in his hand there, is on a killing spree, largely of doctors who specialize in treating dementia. Remember, Tony's father has dementia, and has posted a viral video that basically demands Stealth turn himself into the police or he'll continue his killing spree. And other parties are conspiring to take both men out. Recommended for ages 13 and up, and it's a 3 out of 5 stars. Here's some artwork with it. This is where one of the doctors gets killed by some of the Dead Hand's men. And here's the book. Don't want the shine on there from the plastic. Let's go ahead and pull that on a little bit more. There you go. A little more artwork. Tony talking to a female friend. about what to do or not to do about his dad. The guy that was in the car in the video I just, the guy who's driving here on the bottom right corner here, he's taking a body and going to another group of people and saying, hey, what can we do to team up and take out the dead hand, basically. What you see on this page is basically the viral video that he's put out after killing someone. So those are what's going on with that. And it ends with a kind of a weird thing. Stealth is in the, what he thinks is the safe house. Only it's not so safe when you got a bunch of people coming with weapons to come get you. So that's where I leave you off on that issue. It's okay. It's not the best comic I've read, but it's not the worst either. Let's see what else we got. John Carpenter's presents Storm Kids Hyperbreed number 2 through 4, $3.99 each. The publisher is Storm King Productions. The writer is Louise Simonson. The penciler is Guy Dorian Sr. The anchor is mostly Sal Buscema, but there's some Scott Hanna and a few other assistants in there as well. Color is by Ross Campbell. The letters are by Janice Chang. This cover is not by Walt Simonson and Michelle Matz, and that was the cover to number 1. This cover is actually done by Guy Dorian Sr. and Buscema, as you can see right over there in the thing there, I hope. Yeah. That's the cover number 3 by Kelly Jones. And that's the cover number 4 by Andrew Peapoy. And basically what's going on is that trio of characters are spliced with animal, human beings, hybrids, anthropomorphics with powers. And they've been sent on a I guess you could say a smuggling run with a certain cargo, only they've been ratted out to certain people and meant to be sacrificed. And they're trying to get away with their lives and get away with the cargo. And in the second and third issues, they meet a certain person who says, well, we can do it this way. And they do that, only they don't know that the pirates that were trying to get rid of them in the first place had a implant in that person that basically told them everything they were going to do. So in the fourth issue, they're all captured, and we don't know what's going to happen next. There's only one more issue left to go, which hopefully I think will be out next week. It's coming out on a week-to-week basis. It's pretty well done for what it is. It was created by John Carpenter and another party, the editor, I believe. And Louise and Guy are just basically, doing a good freelance assignment. But it's, it's a little bit above average. It's 3.5 range for all 3 issues. Next book is Strange Adventures, number 3, $4.99 from DC Comics Black Label, which is their mature readers line. Writers Tom King, artists are Mitch Gerads and Evan Doc Shaner. The genre is science fiction superhero mystery, released this week, July 15th, 2020. What it's about is Mr. Terrific's investigation of Adam Strange continues. Alana, that's Adam Strange's wife, addresses the media and questions the tactics and proceedings of the investigation. What exactly is the truth behind what happened on Rand, and who wants to hide that truth and why? I gave it 3.5 stars. It's definitely a mature reader's book. There's cussing and a few other things in there. I don't know. They kind of put that in there with the symbols for cussing, but anyway, it's pretty well done, you know. This is the stuff that supposedly happened in the book, where he fought an alien race to try and get their aid. And then it cuts to the current time with Adam Strange questioning Superman about what Mr. Terrific is doing. And he says, hey, I understand your frustration. I'm married to an investigative journalist. So it's a process. I'd like to remind you that you asked us to do this. So, it's an interesting story of what they're going to do with that. And I don't really know where it's going. It's got a long way to go. It's only issue 3 out of 12. So, we'll see how long it takes the story to get going, because so far it's been pretty slow. But, when you're dragging it out for a 12-issue run, it's going to be a lot of times with today's writers. Next book is The Freak. From Ad House Books, $14.95. The writer-artist is Matt Lesniewski. The genre is science fiction. The ISBN number is 978-1-935233-50-3. Released July 8th, 2020. It might have come out originally in May, but I'm not sure. I know I got it last week. What it's about, the world's ugliest man, which is what you see on the cover, also known as the Freak, travels through life coping with the hardships of societal abuse. He works as a gravedigger. Getting beaten by a mob of idiots who attack him upon first glance, the Freak finds they've taken his sole possession, his shovel. Angered and battered, he tracks down the culprits, grabs his shovel, and kills one of the attackers with it. Now on the run from the law, he's adopted by a group of kindred souls and underground freaks like him. Can he let go of his past and the anger inside of him and live in peace with his newfound society and friends, or will he let his inner demons alienate him? Definitely a mature reader's book, 5-star rating. Can't get much better than that. Let's take a quick look at the artwork for it. And it's a black and white series. As you can tell, Lesniewski has a kind of a European Aeon Flux and Mobius vibe going on with his artwork. So if you like the Mobius type of works that I've mentioned in the past, like The Role of Adina, then this book might be of interest to you. Storyline's very good. I don't want to give it away about what happens, but this first page is where he gets really badly beaten up by the mob. And the cut to this is after he finds his shovel is gone and he's trying to get it back and do stuff. But I really did like Lesniewski's art work on this. Again, I'm a big fan of Mobius, though, so it's in that vein. So that's probably why I like it so much. Story was very well done. It's very poignant and very sad about not only how society is often too judgmental upon appearances, but also how we allow society to eat at us and turn us into something that can be monstrous. And so here you have this freakish looking character who's a monster. Well, is he a monster? Well, it probably wouldn't have been, but he became one because of how he was mistreated, and he doesn't know how to let go of that and forgive. And what does that cost him? Well, read the book and find out. The Hated #1 is next. It's $7.99. The publisher is Solid Comics. This I got through Kickstarter. Writer is David F. Walker. The artist is Sean Damian Hill. The colors are by Sean Stribble, MX Stribble. I don't know how that's pronounced. I'm not exactly sure how they see themselves. They're not male or female, I guess. Yeah, I'm not really good at describing that, but Stribble's a pretty good person regardless, and good colorist. The lettering is by Becca Carey, and the genre is an alternate history in Western. And what it's about is, in this alternate history, the Civil War ended in a truce where the southern states continued to have slavery. Now, along the border between the northern and southern states, bounty hunters try to steal freed blacks and take them back to slavery, while others from the north are trying to free the blacks from the south as the country expands westward. Araminta Free is a sort of Western female version of Bass Reeves. Now, we've covered Bass Reeves in the past, but for those who don't know, Bass Reeves was a black lawman who was sort of the inspiration for the Lone Ranger. And she's kind of a female version of that in this story. She's a black female bounty hunter and northern liberator, and she fights against the Confederates who try to enslave her kind. Let's see. This is a mature reader's book. It's 4.5 stars. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you artwork so I'm going to show you the comic here in a moment. And I got the comic, and I got 2 prints, and I got some stickers from them from my order. As you can see, the cover actually has the creators' names on it, as opposed to what I had to show for the graphics. That's the difference of being able to get stuff going on with pulling it online and using it for the graphics rather than being able to use my scanner that's not working. But anyway, good evening to Ted Davies. Let's take a quick look at some of this artwork. Well, actually, I think we do have some artwork in here that we can share with you. Let me see here. Yes, we do. And basically what's going on is they're running to the sheriff to let him know that Amarinta is bringing a person of interest in for bounty. And this is taking place in 1872. Here's the same stuff with the lettering actually on there. It's in Harmony, North Kansas, Union States of America, 1872. Now, some people are saying that Amarinta is Pam Grier. I was actually thinking it would, if I was going to cast it today, since Pam Grier, I don't even know if Pam Grier's alive, but I was thinking the actress who plays Zoe Washburn on Firefly. would be a good actress for this, because this was actually originally a screenplay for a movie that never got picked up, and David adapted it to the writer David Walker adapted it to comics, and when he did that, he changed a lot and created different things with it, as explained in the back of the book with the history of the book. Mm-hmm. And let's see what else we can find here. She's basically explaining the conflict she had with the guy before she captured him. And it turns out this guy is a lead scout for a group of Confederates who have now taken an entire different town separate from Harmony and killed a bunch of people and are taking the slaves back to the Confederacy, and she has to go stop them. And that's what's going on in this issue. It's really well done. I actually like this book better than Bass Reeves, which was the Allegiance comics based on the actual lawman. And there's also an article about Frederick Douglass and the actual Black Union troops that were used to fight in the Civil War. Just different articles, and different images of what was going on and who John Brown, the Scourge of Dixie, was and stuff like that. And it's really well done. And the reason I like this better than I like the Bass Reeves book is partly because Bass Reeves is a real person, and there's going to be some constraints of what they can and can't do in that comic, I think. Whereas this is going to be a little more open-ended because the character is fictional, and David will be able to be a little more expansive, I think. And another reason I'm a little more favored of this book rather than Bass Reeves is because Bass Reeves #2 is supposed to be out on the market about 2 weeks ago. And I've gone to like 9 or 10 different Walmarts and can't get the damn thing. And Allegiance Comics really needs to learn that Walmart was not the answer. They've got to get their books better distributed because Walmart is failing them miserably. And it's hurting not just my interest in the books, but a lot of people's. I've seen it all over the internet where they're having problems with it. Now, there are a few other things that came with this Kickstarter backing. Oops, don't want to get that stuck on that print. Came with a couple of prints in here, 2 or 3 actually. I'll take a quick look at them. This is, again, Amaranta Free. And then this is the Sheriff of Harmony. And they are going to be, they got an interesting relationship between those two. They're lovers. And both of their families are missing, and she's kind of accepted that they're dead and just wants vengeance. And he's like hoping that his family's still there and are still around and still still possibility of saving them. That's what I was trying to say. And so I don't know exactly how far their relationship will go. And I don't want to show some of that stuff because it has nudity and everything. Again, this is a mature reader's comic, but it's certainly worth the money to try and get. You can get it from Solid Comics. You can find David Walker on Facebook. But you can just look up Solid Comics, Solid, Comix, and then The Hated on Google, and you should be able to find how to reach David and order copies of the book. Okay? Let's see what we got here. That actually looks like everything for this week. Is that everything? No, there's more. There's got to be more. Okay. It's not. We do have one more thing I got this week called It Eats What Feeds It. We reviewed this earlier off the PDF from Scout Comics. The main reason I pulled it out, it came out this week in print. Just wanted to show you that I don't just read the PDFs. If I really like something, I do spend the money, even if the printer or the publisher says be a free PDF. Written by Max Hovan and Aaron Crow with Gabriel Imuzark is the illustrator. If you remember, this is the dorky teenager boy that's living in the Mississippi Bayou or Louisiana Bayou, and he meets this beautiful woman and living in a palatial estate in the swamp, and he becomes her manservant, so to speak, as well as other things. But yeah, he sees different things and thinks there's monsters there, and there are. And what's going to happen next, we don't know. But I gave this a 4 or 4.5 star when I reviewed it the first time, I believe. I didn't get a chance to look back up on the original listing, but I give it a 4.5 now as well, even if I gave it less before. I really did enjoy reading it, and I recommend it again, mature readers, but well done. Now, unfortunately, because of the computer issues I had, there's quite a few more books that didn't get included this week. So I apologize for that. Just couldn't find time. I lost like 3.5, 4 hours trying to fix the computer a day. But I hope that everyone enjoyed the reviews so far. And what else does everybody else have anything to say today? How are we doing out there? John, Ted, anyone else who might be watching? I know a lot of you have been doing podcasting of your own. I believe Ted's got a new podcast where he started promoting other people. I know he did an episode where he was talking about promoting your peers, and I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, Ted, but I will get to watching that. I have it saved in my Kiwi for YouTube. Anybody? Am I talking to dead air today? Well, if that's almost everything. This week, I also received a few other items from Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Haven't had a chance to review them yet. I'll review them next week. But I got the Johnny Dynamite books. I know I reviewed them. Let me see if I can find them on Kickstarter again real quick. Let me see if I can. Okay. If that's the case. Wasn't Johnny Dynamite, it was Johnny Phantasm. There we go. Let me share that with you guys. John always has nothing. I got nothing. I know nothing. But that's okay. We got something here for you guys. Real quick here, I'll share with you if I can get the computer to do it. Yeah, this is the book I just got. I got all 3 issues. It was backed. This is probably an older one. I don't know for sure. Let's see. You can't order any of it now because we have stretch goals and stuff like that. But let me take a quick. I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. These are the 3 issues I got. This was issue number 1, number 2, and number 3. And there's some extra bonus cards and stuff in the back. And as you see, it says Comicsgate Alliance. I'm not really caring about Comicsgate. But whatever. If that's. And I also got a poker chip with it. I don't know if it'll clear up or not. But and on the back side, it has spade that says Johnny Phantasm on it. I didn't even see these cards until just now, so I didn't realize it was a so-called Comicsgate book. I don't really care, again, like I said, about the whole CG thing. Just certain people that have an attitude problem, and these individuals didn't seem to express like they were better than everybody else. So I will review those next week. And I'm waiting for some other stuff, but next week I got a whole bunch of books I didn't get to read through, including The Only Living Boy Omnibus, The Only Living Girl Chapter 1, trade paperback, 2 or 3 other things as well, at least, maybe more. But I don't know what we'll have for next week exactly because, we got 2 more people coming next week, tentatively scheduled. We have Bob France, the writer of Metal Shark Bro. Scout Comics just sent me the Metal Shark Bro 2 #1 preview PDF, And I just ordered Metal Shark Bro season 1, I guess you could say, trade paperback at my retailer. So Bob will hopefully be here next week to talk about that series, and we'll preview that book. And another gentleman, let's see. See if I can find him real quick. My computer's being fussy. This always happens when I'm looking for stuff. Let's see. The other one's name is Jeffrey Haas, and Jeffrey is the creator of a book that he just sent me the PDF for yesterday, and I'll be reviewing that book with him, and hopefully he'll be on next week as well. So we'll have guests galore, hopefully, for next week. So we've been on for as many reviews as I did. It's a much shorter episode than I thought it was going to be, but we did a good job reviewing stuff. So I appreciate y'all for watching as usual. There we go. Sorry, trying to get these things to go properly working here. So before we go ahead and close out for today, remind everyone that the show was intended for 16 and up, and is intended to educate older teens and adults in accordance with the COPPA regulations for YouTube. If you want to reach me personally, directly, you can get me on Facebook at lewis.brightraven, deviantart.com/brightraven, on YouTube at Quoth the Raven Lewis Brightraven. You can reach me via Gmail, which is where I recommend you send questions to, at quoththeravenlbr72@gmail.com, or if you can't reach me there, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. The podcast usually airs on Thursday, is scheduled for Thursdays on 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, once again, I want to thank you all for watching this week, and hopefully next week we'll, even if I don't have the computer scanner working and everything, we'll have everything up and ready, and we'll have our guests next week, and we'll have a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So until then, stay safe out there in our pandemic little world, and I'll see you guys next week.